morning. It's 4:55. Looking for a coffee cup. And probably hardly anybody awake, if I had to guess, because most folks are still asleep, except for the moms of the world, at least at our house right now. So loud when all the water just goes into the dishes from dinner last night. Good morning, Melissa. I see a friend on there. So I'm awake, and I just woke up thinking about a woman named Eliza from Memphis. Well, Amos woke me up, my little person with autism, and then was talking and not going back to sleep. So I was sitting there talking to him, or trying not to talk to him and let the other adult in our house sleep. And I was like, well, instant coffee sounds good. I'll make a little instant coffee. Good morning. I've never been a one to get up and exercise in the morning, and not because I don't feel safe doing it, but because I'm tired, basically, or lazy, probably all of the above. And I have Amos, who has to be watched. But I was really struck by how many people were like, well, she shouldn't have been running that early. That wasn't safe. And my mother and I have talked about this before. She was like, things are so easy in hindsight, right? They're so easy in hindsight. So you could always look back at something that happened yesterday. Let's say, for instance, yesterday my day went perfectly well, right? Nothing happened. Everything was fine, easy peasy. But let's just say for a minute that I let Amos walk on outside our fence by the water, and I was swimming with my daughter. Well, let's say he'd fallen in. I couldn't get there in time, and he drowned. People would have been like, why did you let him do that? I never would have let him do that if I had known that was going to happen. If Liza had known, boy, this is going to be the last run I take because someone is going to pounce on me, she wouldn't have gone. But how could she have known that? She didn't know that. She did not know that. That's not how we do. And I'll tell you another thing. There is nothing more unhelpful than criticizing people that are no longer here, particularly to their family members. There's something called grace and timing, and of course it might make people think, boy, could we have more lights out so that people can, what could we do so that wouldn't have happened? But at the end of the day, that was not Liza's fault. She was doing everything she was supposed to be doing. She was training for a marathon. She was a young mother, 2 little fellas, a preschool teacher, and she did exactly what women do. She decided, you know what, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a run in while I have time, because I'm sure she had 100 zillion activities later in the day. First time catching you live. Well, it's not normally this early, but just my heart was super heavy this morning. Don't go out alone at that time. Well, this is kind of what we're talking about, Grace. So terrible things can happen anytime because there are terrible people out there in the world. I told this story to my subscribers last night that last year, or at my old house, which was, this house is higher up, but I was unload my car, load my car, unload my car. So I had our side door propped open. We live in a little town that feels pretty damn safe to me. And I guess I was carrying things downstairs. And as I came downstairs to my side hall, there was a man standing in the hall who I did not know. He looked vaguely familiar from just, living in a small town. But, and he said something like, well, I thought you might need help. What he said wasn't as terrifying as the fact that he was in my house. And I managed to get around him. Now, this is in the middle of the day, right in the middle of the day in a little town that I love. And I got around him. And once I got in my driveway, I got very hostile. I was dropping the F word. Anyway, I was really trying to move him on. Anyway, and it did. Nothing happened. I went on about my business. I didn't have anybody saying, well, I don't know why she'd have the door open, or I don't know why, whatever. I don't know why. No one would say it's too early for a man to be out running this age-old women. Yes, women have a right to be safe. And honestly, again, things happen at any time. I think all of us know that. My own husband, you want to talk about a story, was in a little town, Oxford, North Carolina, years ago. We had some cousins living there, and his aunt had died. And he got there early before the funeral, mid-morning, and was walking, I guess, around downtown. And on the sidewalk walking, another guy was coming beside him. And as they walked past each other, the guy punched him in the side of the head. I mean, out of nowhere. It was the middle of the day. There is no place for blame. I wish I had coffee made already. Natalie. Well, Natalie, just go in there, get your Sanka or your Cafe Bustelo like me, and dump it in your cup. Anyway, and what do you do about it? Somebody said, well, it's a random, totally random act. This guy had been in jail. He had been in jail. He had gotten out early, the Tennessee Department of Corrections, for kidnapping an attorney, where Liza's uncle worked in the same law firm. Stacy said, since I teach, I was planning on exercising before I go to work. I would have to walk in the dark. It does make me a little more nervous. And I wouldn't say to somebody, yeah, I wouldn't try to have a friend. I mean, I think we always want to do things like that. I just think timing is everything. And if you think that people are out there, when you make comments on the internet or Facebook post, I think we feel a little brave and anonymous. I mean, there are people that write comments all the time that are a realtor in Wilmington, because, you can look on their page and figure out anything. And she's saying, you're doing that. That's why your kids are so messed up. Well, at the end of the day, there's somebody reading that kind of stuff. And her family, Liza's family, her children, they are some days or whatever. Her husband had internet problems around here. Rumors that, you know, the husband's behind it and he's doing this, and drugs and an affair. And it's like, are you kidding me? There's just no reason to know. There's just, what is the point in that? You know, speculate at home alone. Don't do it on the internet. It's hurtful. Mary, I went to school at the University of Memphis, and I know where it happens. We have heard that the cross-country team had been followed while running around campus. Well, the asshole that did it had been sitting there in his car for about 20 minutes. He's also like charged with fentanyl possession. I mean, clearly people that are up doing drugs are just, you know, preying on people. He served 16 of 20 for kidnapping a teen who became an attorney, Kemper Durand. Yeah. Well, Kate, I didn't know the attorney was a teenager at the time. Huh, but that makes sense. But Kemper Durand died pretty young, right? He was maybe 37. That's interesting. And he said in his victim impact statement, if I hadn't gotten away, I feel sure I would have been killed. So that makes sense. They were out that night late. He got thrown in the trunk of his car. He and the assailant and another fella, and they let him out of the trunk to get cash out of the cash machine, and he went running and screaming and yelling and got away. Lisa, so if you're tuning in, we're talking about Liza Fletcher in Memphis, Tennessee, who was murdered on Friday. She was 2 little boys and just went out for a run, training for a marathon early in the morning, 4:30, 4 or so. And she was brutally attacked and killed and discarded like a piece of trash, all before 5:48 a.m. So that 1 hour changed the trajectory of particularly our whole children's lives. I agree, Allison. My husband's a criminal attorney. And, you know, I think we're human, right? And he's got a wife and children. And he was like, you know, we were talking about Uvalde, Texas. And he was like, you know, I can't imagine as a parent not being able to help my children or to help my wife. You become real less about, you know, rights that you do about, let's be honest. I do think there's something to, like, how much are we going to spend on a trial for somebody where we know they did it, the DNA already agreed to it. I know we want to make sure, you know, everything's right, but what a waste of taxpayer money. And he won't talk. You know, I'm sure he had a horrible upbringing and everything was awful. But now he won't talk. That's the part of me that, like, I don't have much patience for that not talking at all. Like, my initial thought is, I'm going to take like a steak knife and start sawing off his fingers until he tells what happens. I know that sounds terrible, but I'm just going to be totally honest. Like, and I'm sure, I can't imagine his children, or he as a child, didn't have the opportunities or the probably love and care that my own children have. And I get that. But at some point, and our counselor at school said this, she was like, you know, at some point, I tell our kids who come from backgrounds that really aren't that great, you have to start making decisions for yourself. You decide, you decide, you decide. And that really struck me. Like, that's right. Like, you have made these bad decisions, but now it's on you because now you're choosing. You sat in that car and you waited to get her. And she fought like hell. She totally fought. But he was bigger and meaner and stronger and had a plan. Not a good plan. And that's what I was telling my husband last night, the attorney. I was like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get why you would make a decision and know this is the end of my own life because I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go sit and rot in prison. Yeah, I agree, Dawn. I do think a lot of people had horrible childhoods and don't do anything. But I do understand that has something to do with it. Do I think it's an excuse? No. But I can't not think about it. I mean, there was a terrible case in North Carolina where a young mother was changing her baby's diaper at the, I think it was CVS in Greenville, North Carolina, and her husband and brother-in-law went inside to get something, and they came out and the car was gone, and they thought, well, it was a joke. Maybe she's just being funny. Well, the guy had taken her, raped her, murdered her, beaten her, left her in a field, and left the baby in a field who they found alive with terrible sunburn. And he had a horrible childhood. I think his name was Andre. He was sold for sex as a small child. I mean, terrible, terrible things happened to him. But did that mean he had to do that? No. 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 The other thing that people don't want to talk about is drugs. Clearly, my dad said to me recently, and he has a ton of opinions, but he was like, if you can keep your children off drugs, you're really doing something. And I was like, it's really a good point. If you get into drugs, your whole life is difficult. And you don't see people doing these terrible crimes unless they're like cuckoo serial killers. There's always like fentanyl and controlled substance, and they're doing drugs. They're doing drugs. Now, to me, that would fit the mentally incompetent. I don't know. I'm not an attorney. I just play one on TV. I just heard the news in Australia. Damaged people do damaging things, sadly. Yeah. Yeah, so I woke up, my 8-year-old with autism woke me up and got in our bed and wanted me to repeat things he was saying. And I said, shh. And he goes, don't shush me. Say hi, Mommy. Quiet, hi. So he's downstairs playing Legos. And I just thought, if something happened to somebody that I loved, knowing that people care and are listening helps. I don't know if it's, oh, Cheryl, welcome back. I don't know if it does any good, but Susan said they want back in prison. I don't think he did that to get back in prison. He had evidently offered like $100 for sex at his apartment complex. He didn't have a car. He had a job. I think he did what he felt like he wanted to do. The question is, how do you get to a point that that's what you want to do? I just don't get that. I just don't get that. But when you're talking to people today, or somebody mentions it, Courtney, we're talking about Liza Fletcher from Memphis, Tennessee, who was murdered on Friday, and when she went for an early morning run. And there was just lots of commentary about, well, she shouldn't have been out running, and shouldn't have done this, and shouldn't have done that. It's like, it's real easy to say, boy, shouldn't have had Aunt Diane drive all those kids home with tooth pain after, the whole car is murdered. Do you remember that? There's something wrong with Aunt Diane. I mean, you just have to, hindsight is a dangerous slope to go down. And I'm of the thinking that we get so many saves, if not every day, close to it. How many times have you almost walked across the street and a car was coming? Or have you narrowly missed a terrible accident? Or have you lost sight of your children on the beach, and then you found them? They could have drowned. You could have been killed, a zillion and thousand times. You have been saved in everything, and it's not of your own doing. It didn't happen. She should have run on Friday, and she should have gone home, and she should have been able to, she should have been able to plan her Labor Day weekend, and nothing should have happened. Nothing. And in a perfect world, he would have been sitting there and been pulled over by the police, and they would have said, what are you doing here? Move on. Or maybe they would have said, you know what? Why is he out of jail? Hindsight invokes change. That's why people say it. No matter how much hindsight you have, Jenna, evil still lurks. And there's something about timing, Jenna, that's super important. And for a minute, put yourself in the position of her mother, her husband, and someday her little boys, and have them have the weight of, boy, we shouldn't have let her go. Nobody needs that. There's nothing graceful in that at all. No. It's not about invoking change. Of course there's change. But is it the time for it right this second? Grace. Grace is what people need. I would love to go out jogging for work at 4:30. I am too scared. It wasn't why was she out there. It was why was he out there. So if you're into hindsight, then come up with a program that rehabilitates prisoners. Because when you're in prison for rape and kidnapping, and you sit there for 20 years learning how to be more of a criminal, where are all these people with these wonderful plans of how to make somebody not be a terrible person? Spend your hindsight on that. Right? The news said men go here and sit and wait for girls to be out intoxicated and look for targets. She had these two little blonde fellas. I have my own. Well, they're not so little now. Off at school. But, I could see my own boys in them. Look. And she's going to miss so much. And it was not her fault. She's going to miss the first day of kindergarten and Christmas and never be there for her birthday again. Just heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. So this morning I'm up thinking about her. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to think about her and how thankful I am to be on this earth, and how I hope we learn to give everybody, we all learn to give a little grace. Now there's somebody else up at my house. I'm curious about what your husband says about this, since he's a criminal attorney. You know, we're going to do a subscriber video on Saturday, and he's going to kind of chime in and talk about how the law works, in his own personal thoughts too. Which first and foremost, he's a human. Yeah, Samantha, totally agree. How many pairs of glasses do you know? Mommy. Yeah. Where's Mommy? Mommy's in here. Hi. What? You want to watch TV? Yes. Don't you think you should go back to bed? Yes. Ready to go back to bed? No. Night night. No. Night night. No, night night. It's morning. It's morning. Why is it so dark then if it's morning? After dark. Is it after dark? Yeah. It's very dark. I don't even see the sun starting to come up. I see the sun. I don't see the sun. It's raining. It is? Yeah. Oh, I think that's the sprinklers. He is smart. He is smart. He's got swimming today. Our second graders do swimming in our public school system because we really value our kids learning to swim. We live on the Albemarle Sound, and it's a program that's been in place since my big kids were little. And anyway, so I hope he's not too tired for that. Where is Honor? Honor, his service dog, I'm assuming is probably still in bed asleep. She sleeps with him, and she's probably, so that means we all sleep together. It's like a family sleep fest in there. Over 100 women have signed up to finish her run Friday morning. I wish I could be back on campus. I did think that, I'm glad those women are doing that. I think that'll go a lot for her family, you know, and okay, you need to close the doors, okay? Her family needs to know that she mattered and she was valued, and that when I want to. Yes, you can, but close the door. Close the door. No, close the door. You didn't. No, not that one. This one right here, the kitchen door. Kitchen door. Close. No. This door, look. See how it's still open? Close. Close. Close the door. Well, now we got hungry cats. I need to watch TV. Okay. Subscribers, I'll see you in a few minutes. We'll go ahead and do a check-in. Since we got plenty of time before school. Bye. Grace. Give grace today. Thank y'all.